Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, these are companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. You should be using them too. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors because you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to their website, schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. Probably one of the best equipment purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Check them out today. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches, student athletes, even our parents just love the platform. Go to huddle.com, join the 100 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. Let's also say thank you to Home Campus. Scheduling, rosters, results, facilities, athletic eligibility, and clearance. I'm telling you, you're going to use Home Campus every day. Go to homecampus.com to see all the great things they can do for you. And don't forget to mention the podcast. We also want to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant athletic director, along with thousands of others, got their masters through the Ohio program, and it was a great experience. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com. Let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Templates, logos, it's all so easy to use. And the branding component, your fans, your student athletes, your coaches, they're just going to love it. Go to Gipper.com to get signed up. And again, don't forget to mention the podcast. Let's also say thanks to Beacon Creative Wall of Fame. Vital Signs Wall of Fame has been bringing your school's legacy to life for over a decade, but now Beacon Creative adds a content creation service. They're going to create compelling stories with the data that you provide. It's going to allow you to celebrate your students. I want you to email John, that's John Townsend, email John, John, at beaconwalloffame.com for more information. That's Beacon Creative at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Let's also say thanks to our friends at Hometown. Hometown continues to be a game changer with their solutions that include things like, well, of course, digital ticketing, but how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction, and a whole lot more. Whether you're a principal, an athletic director, a coach, Hometown is going to show you how to save time, how to raise more money, and how to bring your community together. That's hometown.com. And let's say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your student athletes, your coaches, or your parents, you're really missing out. The data that you collect from these surveys is incredibly valuable, whether you're meeting with a frustrated parent, or how about your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. It's one of our Back to College episodes, and we're going to be visiting today with Rachel Steinbarger. She is the co-director of athletics at Pratt Community College, that's in Kansas, has a tremendous background in athletics as a coach, as a leader, and we're excited to hear her story. Rachel, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, again, you and I were talking before we started recording. Came across your profile on LinkedIn, and for listeners, we get a number of our guests through that process. Thought you'd be a great guest, and so here we are. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us your quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. We're going to hear about your job journey later on. So maybe just take us up through your own college experience. But what's the
Yeah.
Rachel Steinbarger origin story?
Oh gosh. It's very interesting. I grew up in Columbus, Indiana. Not many people know that. So it's close to IU, Bloomington area. People think of Columbus, Ohio, not Columbus, Indiana. And I grew up on a farm. So hard work was instilled at me at a very young age. Started playing sports when I was 5 years old. Knew I did not want to stay on the farm and work. So I decided, let's see what sports can do. So I was a three-time sport athlete prior to high school, softball, soccer, and basketball. And then when I got into high school, I only played soccer and basketball, but I only played soccer my senior year, which is very interesting. Long story there. And I was a goalkeeper and still hold the most shutouts for the program, with 12 shutouts for the entire year, which was really cool. And the recruiting process started early for me. I was always a top 50 women's basketball player. I was really good at soccer as well. And just decided to kind of see what that did. My parents were very awesome and amazing through the recruiting process. I think I went on 37, 38 visits overall, for my college experience, and all Division I schools were recruiting me, which I was very blessed with. But I chose Indiana Wesleyan University, which was an NAIA school.
Yep.
And I chose it because my faith is a huge piece of who I am. It's very important to me. It's important to my family. It was how I was raised. And my grandmother was very ill, when I was in college, and she was kind of the centerpiece of why my faith is where it's at. And so that's why I stayed close to home and chose Indiana Wesleyan. And having the faith background as well really made my faith mine. And it wasn't my parents anymore when I was in college. We were very successful. We were 115 and 26 for my entire college career, winning 115 games, cutting down nets every year, starting as a freshman. Doing all of that was so amazing. And when I look back, it's like, man, sometimes I wish I could go back to those moments and not wish it away. And so I loved the atmosphere that Coach Brooks built. He's a great mentor of mine, very successful NAIA coach. He has now since retired, but he's kind of how I got into coaching. And it was just a blessing, to be a part of a program that was successful, but to also have a coach who mentored me my junior and senior year and taught me how to recruit, taught me things before I even got into the coaching realm.
Oh, wow. I mean, a lot of different things I want to go into. Let's go all the way back to some of those developmental years. Obviously, multi-sport athlete. All of our athletic directors listening right now are cheering. Yes, multi-sports. Um, when you were when you were growing up, when you were a kid, was it backyard soccer, driveway basketball? What are some of your memories of that time? Was it all the kids in the neighborhood? Did you have siblings? What are some of your memories of that time?
Yeah, I have an older brother. He played baseball but wasn't really into sports the way I was. I was always just that different kid that was everything I did was intense. It didn't matter what we did. It could have been a card game, it could have been backyard basketball, it could have been playing football with the kids in the neighborhood, whatever it was. I was that girl that was just like so tomboyish and was like, I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna be a difference maker. And I was always the leader. And so I think that that's why my parents were like, for her to be okay and not to get in trouble in life, we probably should put her in sports because I was just that kid, I was always doing off the wall stuff. And so I think that that was the biggest precursor, and having great neighborhood families, where we could play basketball or soccer or football or just run around, ride bikes, do whatever. I was always outside doing something.
Yeah, boy, I can picture that right now. Causing mayhem, in the neighborhood games. As you got into, the organized sports, I think you mentioned that in high school it was soccer and basketball. See, in Florida, soccer is a winter sport, and so that's a combo that you just don't see that often. Obviously, I think playing goalie, or are you supposed to say keeper? There's a lot of movement around, so there's probably some good, transitional skills from one sport to the other. What are some high school memories, either, practice or games or with coaches? What really sticks out for you from those years?
It's hard to like, it's so sad to say this, but injuries. And the reason that I say that is because I was 14 and I tore my ACL. And that really changed the trajectory of my thought process in sports and kind of how I wanted sports to be. I was a tough cookie. I got back in 2.5 months playing full time, which is very rare. You do not hear of that, but I think it's because I was so young. So I didn't play soccer. That is why I didn't play soccer at the beginning of my high school career, and just really focused on basketball. And it did change the way that I played. I will say that I was more timid and things like that. Whereas before I was just crazy, driving to the basket, running into people, diving into bleachers to save loose balls. Like that was just my mentality. And so when I started my senior year, I really wanted to play. They tried to recruit me for soccer, so I was like, sure, let's do it. But I ended up getting injured during soccer season. And my high school varsity coach for basketball said, Rachel, you have to promise me if you do this, you're not going to get injured. Well, I got injured, and I got a bone bruise in my ankle, which is like hard to do, and was able to play a couple weeks after season started. But I would say the biggest thing was just the transition. Soccer really got me into the best shape possible going into my senior year of basketball. But I would just say injuries, which is probably crazy to think about, but I'm always injured, I feels like. So that's just probably it.
Well, I think that's probably typical of your type of player. I mean, you're all out on every play, so it's high reward, but it's also high risk.
Mhm.
Obviously, you mended enough to have some interest from all these basketball programs. Let's go and jump ahead. You mentioned the championship run. You mentioned the mentoring and the relationship you had with your teammates and your coaches. Was coaching something that you knew you were going to do, or did that just kind of happen organically?
So it's so funny, because of the role that I sit in now when athletes come and sit and they're ineligible. I'm like, I was you. I was an ineligible student athlete my first year, my first semester. I had to take a winter class to be eligible for the next semester because I was biology pre-med. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon because my orthopedic surgeon that did my ACL surgery really changed my life, and I went and sat in on surgeries and did the whole internship deal, and I loved it, but I didn't realize the amount of time that it took for me to do that while also being a collegiate athlete. And I commend people who can do that. For me, it just was not feasible. And so I changed to sports management. And then it was just kind of one of those things where my head coach sat down with me and he's like, you are the leader on the court. Because I was a point guard at 5'9", which is a pretty tall point guard. And he was like, you're the leader. You coach them on the court. Have you ever thought about it? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. And then the more I thought about it and just the passion and the intensity that I had and how I was like, I really could see myself doing this. And my teammates to this day still say I'm the most intense person they've ever met in their entire life.
Well, and I don't think that is too uncommon a path for a lot of coaches, a lot of leaders. That's it's funny, sharing the story with your current athletes. Um, uh, when I graduated from college, I was a substitute teacher for a couple of years before I got my first full-time job. My best friend from high school also became a teacher at a different college. We both ended up at our high school as substitutes one day. And so at lunchtime, we go into the old teacher's lounge, cigarette smoke and all that stuff. And here's all of our old teachers, all of our old coaches. And I remember one of them turns around and sees the two of us and goes, "You guys became teachers?" Okay. So it's just, I think those experiences that you and I had allowed us to be coaches and leaders in the world of athletics. Let's go and take our first break. Once again, our guest today is Rachel Steinbarger. She is the co-director of athletics at Pratt Community College in Kansas. We're going to hear all about that and more, but let's take that break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank our good friends at Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You heard me say before, probably one of the best equipment purchases I ever made as an AD was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. We use it for home games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. Their products are tremendously versatile and their customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. We also want to say thanks to our friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there's a whole lot more. Go to huddle.com, join the over 100 million users, and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com.
Hey Jake, I just started at Pratt, but I love that we use Huddle. It benefits all of our sports and it's been a great casting service for us too.
Oh, well, gosh, thanks for saying that. Now, are you using multiple features? I'm sure your coaches are using it, for the analytics and the stat breakdown, but you're using, streaming and some of the other features?
Yes, sir, we are. And we have it at our outdoor facilities as well for like our flag football teams and things like that. So it's been pretty cool to see how that all started about before I got here.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it really expands the reach of a program. So thanks so much for sharing that. For our listeners, once again, our guest today is Rachel Steinbarger. She is the co-athletic director at Pratt Community College. She actually just started the job recently. We're going to hear about that in our next segment. But Rachel, you have quite a background already in collegiate athletics, as a coach, as a leader. Can you share with our listeners a little bit of that journey? You're 1 minute you're a successful college athlete, and the next minute, you're looking for a job. How did that all happen?
It is a wild ride to look back at that. Right out of college, I mean, not even a month after I was out of college, I had an assistant coaching position at a small Division III school in Franklin, Indiana called Franklin College.
Wow.
20 minutes from home. So it was still in Indiana, which I liked, and it wasn't super far from my family. And that's kind of where the roots took it. Coach Brooks, my mentor, my head coach, his one of his best friends actually mentored somebody who got that job, and that's how we got connected. And so Jennifer Temple was an amazing first year boss. She taught me so much out of my 2 years there. It was wild to be the same age or younger than some of the athletes. That was something that was very interesting. And then starting my master's while I was there online with Liberty University was a huge feat for me, my first master's. And I never really used my master's, but God called me to do a master's in Christian ministries with an emphasis in leadership. So I learned a lot just about how the Bible can be utilized for leadership. So that's really how I've kind of taken my career. Education has been a huge piece of my career as well. And then I transitioned, and got a head coaching job 2 years after that at a small Christian college in Lancaster, Pennsylvania called Lancaster College, Bible College. And I was there a year, was very successful. Even though I didn't really know what I was doing, I'll be honest, you always think, oh, I have this, I understand. I was a part of a winning program. In college, my mentor was great. He taught me all this stuff, but there's just stuff you don't know. And I was very naive. I was 24 years old. I was very young. And I will say I learned so much, got coach of the year. We were 24-6, but I wanted to learn more. So I transitioned and went back and became an assistant coach for a great, great guy called the school was the University of Great Falls. Now it's called the University of Providence in Montana. Um, but I loved my time out there. Bill Himmelberg, was a great mentor. He actually owns a lot of the McDonald's in Great Falls, Montana. So this was just kind of a fun job for him. He would always say he graduated from Cheeseburger University, which always cracked me up. But he was great in just helping me develop more of the fundamental administrative skills that I did not have when I was a first year head coach. And I learned a lot about the style of coaching that I wanted as well. How I wanted to recruit kids going to the NAI level versus D3 is a little bit different. And so just seeing the style of coaching that he did, the style that I wanted to do, I was blessed. A year and a half after that, I moved to Michigan and was at Madonna University. So Madonna was a dual role. So that was very interesting because I was compliance and eligibility for all the female student athletes. So there was 375 that I did, along with being a head coach for women's basketball. And being in a state that's really cold. I know Montana's cold, but Michigan, it's just a different type of cold out there, you know? And so that was a huge learning curve for me. And while I was out there, I felt like sometimes I had to learn time management in different ways. There was a lot of things where I just felt like I was behind, I could say, when it came to the administrative side, understanding compliance and eligibility. And then by the time I was done there, I was so blessed with how much I had learned and grown and understood.
I know you got some more stops along the way, but you brought up a couple of really, I think, important points. One of the questions I love to ask, for somebody who they just come out of college and now they're coaching, and you mentioned you're coaching people pretty much the same age as you. Um, that expression, you don't know what you don't know. And you already covered some of it, but what really sticks out for you that first year? What was something that you just didn't know this was part of the job as a coach?
The amount of hours that it takes to prepare for a game. And what I mean by that is the scouting reports, the film, the one-on-one individual workouts, the one-on-one meetings about academics, the class checks, the touch point meetings, the one-on-one meetings with your coach, what needs to be posted on, the different platforms for video and how you can get fined if you don't post those, things like that. I just had no clue.
Yeah, again, I'm sure at the college level, there's some additional things that our high school ADs, high school coaches, don't have to don't have to deal with. As you went to each subsequent job and the position, duties are similar, but there's new ones. Was there a new duty that when it hits you, you're going, "What? I got to do this too," or was it pretty consistent on most of your other stops?
I think it was pretty consistent, but I'm the type of person I want to figure it out, right? Like I want to be able to learn it and grow. And so it was never like, holy smokes, this is too much. It was more so like, okay, now let's tweak it to a way where I can make it more efficient for myself. And so that's the way that I've kind of taken every role that I've come across. And had great mentorship. I mean, I call my mentors all the time just to bounce ideas off of, does this sound crazy or is this actually like pretty normal and standard of what I'm thinking about doing?
And that's a great technique for anybody, listeners. You hear us talk a lot about building your network and finding mentor and mentors that you can reach out to. Rachel, I cut off your storytelling, but I think you had at least another stop. You're at Madonna. I know you had another stop before you got to Pratt. Is that right?
I had two stops before I
Mhm.
got to Pratt, but one was not a coaching stop. And the reason, I mean, if you would like for me to continue, I got cancer during COVID. And so when I got cancer during COVID, it was a wake-up call for me, in respect to changes that I need to make in my life in regards to basically having my cup always empty and never filled and giving to everybody else and not giving back to myself. And it made me realize my identity was what I did and not who I am as a person. And so it really transitioned my career to, I think the administrative side is a lot better for me. And so I was blessed at Madonna to have that administrative side for 4 years, to then be able to go to the University of Fort Lauderdale and help them roll out a program. They were never affiliated with the National Christian Collegiate Athletic Association. And then upon my arrival, I was able to help them become affiliated, make sure we were in compliance with things. And that was such a great experience moving to South Florida. Everybody says, hey, like move to South Florida, but people don't tell you like the ins and the outs of the cost and stuff like that. So that was a lot different for me. Yeah, so that's kind of where the administrative my career, side took full force for sure.
You know, having gone through that, talking about going through the health challenges, taking a new position. Was there ever a moment where it was, why is this happening to me and all that? Or was it just, hey, here's the obstacle. I'm just going to power through it.
I'm such a believer in like the Lord has a purpose and a plan for your life, and I think it was meant for a redirection. And it allowed me to start another master's degree through Liberty University, and I was able to really understand maybe the choices that I was making health-wise weren't the best either when it came to food and things like that. And so that kind of, I think, is what the bridge was for me. I looked at it as how can my story impact someone who may be going through that, and they can see me overcome something that was, hearing the C word is really scary. Cancer is really scary, especially when you're 30 years old, and it's during COVID. And so I got another master's in exercise science, nutrition, and wellness. And now I'm a nutritionist and I'm a personal trainer as well. And it really just opened my eyes up to the broad spectrum of had I known that stuff as a coach, man, maybe my athletes would have done a little bit better too.
Yeah, again, that's a great point. We're gonna have to get you back on the podcast to go down that rabbit hole. Let's go and take our second break. Our guest again is Rachel Steinbarger. She is the co-director of athletics at Pratt Community College. That's in Kansas. We're going to hear all about that when we come back. So let's take that break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Home Campus for their support. If you work in scheduling or rosters or you communicate with your coaches, if you're managing facilities, how about tracking athlete eligibility and clearance? If you do any of those things, Home Campus is the app for you. It's the official sports administration software for a number of states, for thousands of ADs. And even if your state uses a different platform, you can still be a Home Campus school. Go to homecampus.com. That's it. Don't forget to mention the podcast. That's homecampus.com. We also want to say thank you to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant athletic director, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio program, and it was a great experience. And while they were doing it, they all earned 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to thank our friends at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team help you become a social media marketing guru. Gipper's used and trusted by over 20,000 high school and college programs. It's professional graphic design made easy. Whether it's a simple social media post to celebrate a victory or an entire newsletter in your school colors, your logos, your brands, the team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. It's so easy, even I can use it. That's Gipper.com. Check them out today. And as always, don't forget to tell them you heard about it on the podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Rachel, you've just been so nice and sharing with your career and your journey, some of the challenges and the victories that you've experienced. But let's go ahead and talk about your current job. You were recently named and I do mean recent, the co-director of athletics at Pratt Community College. How did that all come about? Did you seek out the position? Did they come after you? Tell our listeners how it all came together.
Yeah, it's been, I guess, a crazy last 6 months, to say the least, within my career. I'm, deep into my doctoral program, and so I know I need to become an AD to get, a good job that is coefficient or coincides with being a doctor. You see that. And so um I applied for multiple AD jobs, and the week that um I had my interview with Pratt, I had three other interviews with three other AD jobs as well. Which was pretty interesting because you normally don't see that, hear that. And every AD job I applied for, I got an interview for. And I just really connected with Dr. Calvert, the president. He's an ex-football coach. He is an awesome human being. And he really just took the time, had a lot of, it was almost like he was recruiting me like how I would recruit athletes. And so I just really appreciated that. And I appreciated the time that he spent before I even came on campus. Um, and when I came to Pratt, it's so different than South Texas. And so coming to Kansas, I'd never been to Kansas before. And Pratt, Kansas is a cute little town. I mean, they have cobblestone roads, and it's very quaint, and it's very community driven. And that's something that's a huge piece of who I am. And so it reminded me a lot of home actually as well. And when I came on my interview, I absolutely loved every minute of it. It was very intense. Flew in and flew out in less than 36 hours. And I just enjoyed the process. It was not a co when I applied for the position, it was full AD. And then when I got the phone call in regards to, hey, this is the thought process to make it co, how do you feel about that? Took a good time to think about that because that's not what I applied for. And after consideration, talking to quite a few people, it just made sense with where I am in my career. And it's a cabinet seating position as well, which is a huge piece, to understand a role and to be a part of an institution where you're part of leadership, I think really helps athletics. And so that is kind of the journey to get to Pratt.
Wow. That's that that's probably a unexpected turn of events there. That the position is changed. I'm curious. What was that initial knee jerk reaction? I can think. I mean, I know what mine might have been.
I mean, if you want my honest opinion, it was not probably the most realistic response that it should have been. I was almost concerned because I was a woman. If I'm just being frank, why why is it me? I was the only woman on the search, and then now you want to make it co, but you're offering me co. Like, so I point blank asked that question because I've had that, my entire career. Well, you're a woman. Well, you're a woman. Okay, but that doesn't mean anything, I can do the same as anybody else. And so that was my initial reaction, to be honest.
Hmm. And did you? Again, my wife, she was a sophomore in high school in 1972, so she was a Title IX pioneer. So she lived it. I mean, her entire career as a teacher and as a leader. So believe me, I didn't experience it, but I know what she went through. Did you articulate that in any way to the president in your questioning? I mean, obviously you got the job, and I'm sure it's working out great. But again, for our listeners who may find themselves in that type of situation, male or female, let's how did you turn that? Let's say, and these are my words. How did you turn that defeat, if you will, that you wanted the AD job into a victory that now you're not just making it work, you're thriving in that?
Yeah, I did. I point blank asked him, did it become co because I'm a woman? That was my question to him because I'm very blunt and very transparent and have been through the entire process. I was even open with him about the other interviews I was on, and told him if he made the offer to me, I would choose Pratt just because of how it could really help my career. And so that is kind of how that went about. And he was, no, it's not. He's like, the other co-AD has a lot more SID experience, and we're very limited with that here. Everything else, you have a ton of experience when it comes to the academics, eligibility, building out things. I mean, I'm a builder. That's what everybody says in my career. And so when I took time, when I prayed about it, because I do feel like God called me here, and the moment I got here, I mean, everything's just been a blessing. The moment I took the job, there's just so many things you would never know in a small town Pratt where they don't have housing, and somehow 7 hours after I took the job, I had a place and people were like floored that I even have a place to stay because Pratt is so small. And it just, I knew God's hand was in it. And so for me, I don't know what the end result is, but it's going to be so much greater than what I even imagine it to be. And so that's why I'm just leaning into that and not worrying about the other stuff.
No. And again, that's a great answer. I mean, obviously you're using, your experience, your life. Again, you've been very open about your faith. Hey, this is going to work. This is where I'm supposed to be. And you mentioned your co-athletic director had the SID experience. So I'm going to guess, and this is based on a conversation you and I already had. He does all the Gipper stuff. Is that right?
Sure does. Yes, sir. He does all that. He does the website stuff. I don't have a background in that. He loves that. That is not something I'm super involved with. I'll just ask questions, of course. But yeah, I think for him, that's his niche, right? So.
And again, there's a lot of programs where the AD is also the SID and having to do all those things. So it sounds like a cool division of labor. Let's go ahead and talk about all things Pratt. Where's the location? How many students? How many different programs do you offer? And for many of our listeners, I dare say most of our listeners are high school ADs and coaches. Why should they send their kids to Pratt?
Yeah, Pratt is in a small town in Pratt, Kansas. And it's about, I couldn't tell you the location, north, south, east, or west. It's just 70 miles from Wichita.
Okay.
So it's close enough, but far enough away from big city stuff. And it thrives in the community. It's very diverse. There's almost 2,000 students who attend. There is housing on campus, and we have had overflow with that as well. So we do utilize a hotel, and there's talks of a new dorm being built, which I think is a great thing. Our enrollment is up 14% from last year. So numbers wise, we're really improving. We have great programs from when you do like the EPT, I think is what it's called, where you're doing the lining, the linemen. We offer that program. We offer a lot of academic programs with business. And then it's just a plethora of a lot of different things. And we have online and not online. And so I think that that is a huge benefit too. Cost is very low per credit hour. So if you need to get an online class and do that with your athletes, Pratt is probably one of the places you should come because it's, I think, $170 a credit hour, which is not very much nowadays. Outside of that, when it comes to our sports, we have 16 sport offerings. And I think every program has a great mission and vision. It's just aligning it with the institution. The institution's mission and vision is just to grow Pratt community students to be great ambassadors for the world. So the numbers, the data, all that stuff I could give you, but it's just to me very boring sometimes.
Oh no, that's those are some great brush strokes. We're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but let's go ahead and do it now. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out and maybe pick your brain a little bit more about how your journey has gone, how you're doing things at Pratt, or find out more about Pratt Community College, what's the best way that our listeners can connect with Rachel Steinberger?
Email for sure. I'm a big email person. And you can find it on the website, Pratt Athletic or BeaversAthletics.com, I think is the website. I've only been on the job a month, so everyone please don't look at me like I'm crazy. No, but email is great. And then I don't normally give out my cell phone unless we connect via email. So
Oh no, absolutely. If you when you end up texting folks, you put in hey, this is Billy or Mary and I'm calling because I heard you on the podcast. Don't just send off a random text.
yeah.
Um, we're going to go and take another break. I know that's shocking for our regular listeners, but we're coming back for more with our guest, Rachel Steinbarger. She is the co-director of athletics at Pratt Community College. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thanks to Beacon Creative Wall of Fame. Now, you've heard of Vital Signs Wall of Fame. They've been helping schools share their legacies for years, but now Beacon Creative adds a content creation service. You supply them with the data on your students, your teams, Hall of Fame information. The team at Beacon Creative will then create compelling stories that you can then upload to your digital platforms. And that very well could be a Vital Signs Wall of Fame unit. I want you to email John Townsend at Beacon Creative. And his email is John, John, at beaconwalloffame.com. You can also check out vitalsignswalloffame.com. But email John Townsend, find out all the great things that Beacon Creative Wall of Fame can do for you and your program. We also want to thank Hometown for their support. Hometown continues to be a leader with their solutions that include things like, well, digital ticketing, of course. They're still the number one digital ticketing supplier for schools and colleges. But how about athletic website construction, fee-free fundraising, and a whole lot more? Whether you're an athletic director, a coach, even a principal, Hometown is going to show you how to save time, how to raise more money, and how to bring your community together. You'll find it all at hometown.com. That's hometown.com, and tell them you heard about it on the podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Excuse me, Rachel, you and I were talking during the break, and you mentioned that one of your passions. Well, I'm going to let you share it with our listeners. What are we going to talk about in this segment?
The term student athlete, I think we've gone away from that, in this day and age with the NIL deals, with the athlete being seen, and we don't really see a whole lot of student athletes being projected positively unless they get great GPAs of getting a degree, and for me, it's you're a student first and athlete second, because what if injuries happen? I've been through a lot in my career, even in college with injuries, and so getting that degree that no one can take from you, I think is so much more valuable in the world that we live in than focusing so much on the athlete part of it.
Um, let's go in again. I love the topic, and I think you're absolutely right. It's something that we do need as coaches, as athletic directors, as leaders. We do need to make sure we're emphasizing that on both ends. At the high school level, and then as they continue their athletic careers at the college level. As you were being recruited, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus here, but do you feel like the colleges that were recruiting you were recruiting you as a student athlete, or was it just wow, this kid's a hell of a baller, we need to get her on our team?
It was, wow, this kid's a hell of a baller. We need to get her on the team, and oh, well, we may offer what she wants, but it was never really discussed, the academics piece a lot, and a lot of visits that I went on. It was, you have a spot here, you could have a full ride. That was really kind of how it was. And for my parents, them sitting me down and me being a first generation kid is really important to me, not just first generation for undergrad and all of that, but, having three master's degrees now and working on my doctorate, I think is a huge piece. And people look at me and they're always like, I don't know how you do it. And genuinely, it's sacrifice. But I just love to grow because I love to help people. And I feel like when we identify as just an athlete and not a student, we miss out on so much of who we can be as people.
Yeah, boy, so many directions I want to go. 100 years ago, and I'll talk about my wife again too. We were both, we didn't go to college together. We met after college. We both, I think, kind of knew that we wanted to be coaches and PE teachers and things like that. And so we got on that track as undergrads, so that when we graduated with our bachelors, we had our teaching credentials and we could go out and get hired. Um, the next generation, our three kids all went to college. They're a little bit older than you. Um, but really only one of them, the youngest, kind of knew, hey, I want to do this. She got her undergrad in archaeology, ended up getting her master's in archaeology, and she's working as an archaeologist. The other two, graduated from college, but were kind of all over the place. And I think that their generation, which I guess to a degree might include you, um, it their approach was, they're not looking for a career they're going to do for their entire career. They're maybe trying different things. I know I'm not saying this right, but for you as a leader now, recruiting this next generation of student athletes, how do you um, focus or not? I get, yeah, focus on the importance of education and getting the degree while acknowledging the I don't know how to phrase this, the lack of focus from maybe an 18-year-old on what they might want to study and major in. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, yeah. And that is a question that comes across my plate all the time. How do you get these kids so interested in whatever school you're at and whatever you're doing? And I think I make it so much about them. What are your interests? I don't talk about the sport when I meet with the athletes. I never ever talk about, oh, well, how many, points do you make or how many goals have you, whatever. And that is never something that I talk to the parents about. I talk to them, what are your interests? What are you looking for? Oh, these are the degrees that we offer. Have you ever thought about kinesiology and being a personal trainer? Have you ever thought about business marketing because you want to do X, Y, and Z? Or have you thought about business, just business in general and being an entrepreneur because it sounds like you have a lot of ideas. That's what I do, and that's what draws them into it. When you make it so much about them and what their niche is, then they start to look at, oh, I could actually do this. Oh, and then there are some schools that I've been at where they can take upon arrival, like different quizzes to see these are the categories that would be beneficial for them for their career based on responses that they do. And so it's been a really cool thing to see, but I also think and I hate to say it like this, but the amount of degrees that I have sitting in my office, people are going to ask, well, why do you have so many degrees? You were a coach. How did you get here? And I think being able to be a trailblazer in that sense and not just say, okay, one master's is good enough because I know I can go and be an AD somewhere. I can go and be a coach somewhere because that's the minimum requirement. I want these people to understand learning once you want to stop learning, you should probably not be doing what you're doing anymore. You always should be learning everywhere you are. I don't care how old you are, And so for me, that is a precursor to have those conversations too.
Oh yeah, and we talk about that so much in our profession, as athletic directors and leaders. Is one of the best tools that you can have for success, is being a lifelong learner. Is always having that desire to learn more. Wow, great stuff. And here you are, still I can think we can say at the beginning of your career. Um, we're definitely going to bring you back on the podcast. Some great stuff that we want to talk about some more, but we're not done yet. We always wrap up with a segment called the Athletic Director's Toolbox. And, you've already got a ton of experience in the world of athletic leadership, but we're going to take our final break. hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsor this segment. When we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director. You know what that feels like? On their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 tools in their toolbox. So let's take that break. And when we come back, we're going to see what Rachel Steinbarger puts into her new athletic director toolbox. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd like to thank Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. You know, at my school, we use surveys for everything, for student athletes, for coaches, also used them for parents. And the information that would come back on those surveys was incredibly valuable. Most of it was over the top positive. I'm talking 96%. We also got to hear from our squeaky wheel parents, but the surveys allowed us to hear their concerns, usually address them before they turned into something big. But having all of that positive data, like I said, incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with a frustrated parent or student athlete, or sometimes your principal, or sometimes even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. And as always, tell them you heard about it on the podcast. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been listening and visiting today with Rachel Steinbarger. She has an incredible background in athletics as a coach, as an athlete, also as a leader. She's the co-director of athletics at Pratt Community College, and that's in Pratt, Kansas. But right now, I'm going to task her with sending out a brand new AD on their first job, but I'm only going to let her put 3 things in the toolbox. So, Rachel, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
You know, the first one, when you sent me the notes, the first one that came to mind is listening. You know, you have to listen. You can't listen and speak at the same time and expect to understand. And so when you're new to a position, you're new to a role like an athletic director, you have to understand what the culture was before you got there to understand how you can change a culture. And you can't do that with assumption. You have to be boots on the ground, meeting with coaches, meeting with administration, meeting with a lot of different constituencies across campus, and doing a lot of listening and a lot of note taking. The next one I would say is document your heart out. Make sure every meeting you have documentation of what took place. Either it's notes, it's something. You just never know in the world we live in. And I hate to say it that way, but you just never know. If you meet with an athlete, you always have documentation. If you meet with a coach, whoever it is, that's a huge piece of the role because, again, you just don't know in the world we live in. And then the last tool that I would just say is be authentically yourself. People are drawn to people who are authentically themselves. Early on in my career, I wanted to be so much what someone liked versus being myself. And as I've gotten older, if you're authentically yourself, people will be drawn to you because they feel it from your heart. They can experience your energy, and then they know that you're genuine. When you're young, you just want to fit the mold and fill the gap really fast. And I found that being authentically myself has really propelled my career, I would say, in the last 5 years. And then I would say the last piece is, I know you only said 3, but the last one I think is the most important one for me, and it's know who you are as a leader. Find out who you are and what you're good at, and use those tools to help build a culture. I'm a builder, but trying to build a culture based on someone else's standard is really hard. So figure out your leadership skills and what you're good at and bring good pieces around you to fill the gaps that you need to.
Well, you gave us 4, but again, in true athletic director fashion, you know, you made your own rules, so that's totally fine. I love it, and all of them are great. I mean, your lead-in tool. Listen, I've mentioned this many times. It is probably one of the most important tools that a leader could have, and it's one that I failed to start using early enough in my career. I wish I would have been smart enough to listen more. In fact, I tell my coaches very respectfully, shut up and listen. Okay. So important. Rachel, thanks so much for coming on. Great visit. We're definitely going to bring you back. One more time, if one of our listeners wants to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more, or just add you to their network, what's the best way that they can connect with Rachel Steinbarger?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I mean, that's where you found me. So first, you can pull my name up. I'm probably the only Rachel Steinberger out there. But the next piece I would say is, go to the Pratt website and find my email and connect with me through there. And we can definitely do a lot of great collaboration and communication. Had a lot of people reach out on LinkedIn for mentorship too. So I'm open to any and every possibility.
Okay. Well, thanks again for sharing with our listeners, sharing with us. All the best moving forward with your career at Pratt. And as I said, we are definitely going to get you back on the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet. For listeners, we want to say thanks to you. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of athletics. So please join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Thanks for joining.